Hello, everyone. This is Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com, and today I am going to be going over a hand from a $1,000 buy-in World Series of Poker event I played last year. We're pretty deep in the tournament. The blinds are 1,200, 2,400, and I am doing pretty great with 220,000 in chips. The person we're going to be against in this hand is in second position. He's a tight aggressive guy. He has 150,000. So let's take a look at what we have. We have pocket eights, and the tight aggressive guy raises to 5,500 from second position. And with pocket eights in this spot, I think you pretty much always want to call. Really, there's pretty much no scenario where I'm folding in this spot. Like, even if the players yet to act, if they all have 10 big blinds, I'm still probably just going to call, because on the off chance that the initial raiser folds, we can easily call off the 10 big blinds or even a 20 big blind shove if we feel like it. So this is a spot where I think you pretty much always want to call. And if someone behind us does shove with a short stack and the initial player calls or re-raises, we can then just get out of the way. So this is a pretty standard spot to call. I don't think there's much merit in 3-betting the under the gun raiser second position raiser, because most tight people who are raising from second position tend to open a pretty strong range. And the last thing you want is to get 4-bet off of your pocket eights. So I like calling. Can't really tell, but I did call, I promise. And we see a flop heads up. So the pot is now 18-2, 18,200. It comes ace 10-7, and my opponent checks. So when he checks, should I make a bet? The first question is, what is his likely checking range? His likely checking range, in my opinion, is going to be marginal aces, like ace 3, and under pairs to the ace, like kings, queens, jacks, maybe a hand like jack 10 suited, maybe queen 10 suited, maybe 10-9 suited, maybe nines, maybe eights, probably not. And then he may sporadically have a slow play, but I would definitely not slow play on this board, because it's very easy for me to have a random gut shot like king queen or a hand like 9-8 that is in reasonable shape. So should I bet in the spot? If I bet on the flop, I think the plan has to be to bet the turn and then jam the river. And especially in $1,000 buy-in events at the World Series of Poker that I expect to be somewhat soft, I don't think betting has much merit. So I'm just going to check behind and likely lose the pot. It seems a little bit weak, I'm sure, to just give up in this scenario, but I effectively am giving up. My opponent may have a hand like king queen that he occasionally checks down and lets me win with, but it's very important to not go out of your way to try to steal every single pot, especially if you don't know for a fact, or at least with a pretty clear idea, that your opponent may get out of the way by the river with a hand like ace 5, for example, if he has ace 5 suited. So turn is a 9. If he checks me on the turn, I'll probably just keep checking. At this point, he could randomly have 2 pair. He's not going to fold any pair at this point, or any pair that beats me, to a turn plus river bet. So once you check behind on the flop, you pretty much have to give up. If our opponent bets the turn, see if he does. He does. He bets 10,000 into the 18,000 pot. You can see right here it says 10,000. I think calling is really the only play. We have a pretty clean draw to the nuts. A jack could give king queen the nuts, but that's okay. So I think this is a pretty good spot to call. Pretty clear scenario to call. So we do call. If we miss our straight on the river, we're just going to give up. If the river is an 8 and he bets, I'm probably going to reluctantly call. If he checks, I will certainly value bet with a set, even though if an 8 comes, a jack or a 6 makes a straight. It's pretty hard for him to have a jack or a 6, given the way the hand's played out. And on the river, he checks. So when he checks the river, we have to ask ourselves, how much will he call if he does have a hand like ace 5, or perhaps a hand like pocket kings, or maybe a random 2 pair. So we'll probably call a lot with a random 2 pair, but I really don't think he has a random 2 pair given the way this hand's played out. So how much will he call with a bad ace or pocket kings? I think we want to go for a small bet, probably something like 18,000 in this spot, mainly because it's just so hard for him to have anything. If we get the vibe that he likes his hand, and remember, this isn't a World Series of Poker event, so you can look at your opponent and make a read. If we think that he likes his hand for the most part, or if we thought he really liked his hand on the turn, we could certainly bet large, because if he likes his hand on the turn, for example, that means he probably has something like 2 pair or a set. And if you think he has 2 pair or a set, you can get away with betting much larger. So always be paying attention to that whenever you are sitting at the table. So my bet size here is going to be very dependent on what I think he is doing. So you see we bet 34,000. My cards are covering it up for some reason. This is probably because I got the read that he liked his hand on the turn. And if he liked his hand on the turn, he's probably not going to fold on this river just because it's very hard for me to have king, queen, or a random 8. So I can bet large in this spot and get full value if I do think he likes his hand. So he does call, and he shows pocket aces. I didn't expect to see that. So on the flop, notice if my opponent bet, I probably would have just folded. And this is one of the few hands in my range that he actually wants to keep me in with because this hand's drawing effectively dead on the flop. So checking if you know your opponent has exactly a hand like this makes some sense. However, in general, I think you just want to bet with your aces because any middle card, for example, or even a big card that doesn't pair the board is somewhat scary for pocket aces because you could be against a random set or a random straight, and you have to be a little bit cautious in this spot. You have to realize you're never trying to fold your aces. So you are effectively always paying your opponent off whenever they get there versus you. And you have relatively poor visibility, meaning that if your opponent does get there, it's often hard to see. My opponent did do well by checking on this river. If he bet the river, he would have been put in a miserable spot because I would have shoved. So against my hand, the slow play doesn't look so bad, but I think this is a spot where you just want to bet with your pocket aces. You're going to find that slow playing, unless you have just a stone lock, which is usually something like a straight or flush on the flop, and a good flush, I mean, or full house, is usually not a good idea. Slow playing top set on a somewhat draw-heavy board is usually not a good idea. If this board was even more draw-heavy, like say there was a flush draw available, I think slow playing would be even worse. So anyway, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, definitely let me know. This has been Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com. Thanks for watching.